I'll say we chased candidates all over yesterday and last night, all holding their final rallies. We saw John McCain and spoke with him, Hillary Clinton, John Edwards. I mean, it was just crisscrossing Des Moines chasing these candidates. But it was, you know, it's pretty exciting because on the Democratic side, we have a dead heat with Obama, Hillary Clinton, and John Edwards in a virtual tie. On the Republican side, Governors Romney and Huckabee virtually tied with John McCain surging. So this is anyone's race, as Sean just suggested.
Have you had a chance to sit down or stand next to some Iowa voters and ask them what they're thinking and who they really are pushing for?
You know, it's fascinating. At the McCain event last night, I mean, I stood shoulder to shoulder with John McCain and a couple hundred Iowans. We were all crammed into this room. So it's very easy around here to get a sense of what people are concerned about. And I tell you, one thing that is really coming to the forefront for John McCain is foreign affairs and national defense. A lot of this on the heels of the assassination of Benazir Bhutto last week in Pakistan. All of a sudden, it's not domestic issues people are talking about. It's foreign affairs and protecting this country, and that is perhaps the explanation for why John McCain has now surged in the polls here as well as in New Hampshire.
Mark, do you remember last week in the Chronicle, Mayor Newsom was quoted as saying, you know, he was down there in Iowa and all. He said, you know, you go in somebody's home and they expect you to dry dishes for them. I mean, this is really retail politics at its best.
You know, it's really terrific, and people are even handing out snow shovels to folks tonight so they have no excuse to get out of their driveways and get to the caucuses. You know, a lot of people criticize Iowa and New Hampshire because they're two very small states, but they have a big say in national politics. The thing is, if it weren't for these types of caucuses in small town hall events, candidates would hold press conferences at the airports. They'd fly in and fly out, and the general public, the average voter, would never get a chance to meet them. I know it sounds kind of folksy, but look, it's a way for people to look candidates directly in the eye and ask them questions and find out where they stand on the issues.
What time do the caucuses start tonight? And from what I've heard on the Democratic side anyhow, I mean, the doors close at 7 o'clock, and if you're not in the room, you can't participate.
Yeah, 7 o'clock Central Time, 5 o'clock in the Bay Area, the caucuses begin, and they should take perhaps 2 to 3 hours at the most. And, you know, we'll know the winner by tonight on the 10 o'clock news, and we'll have a live report on that as well. But, yeah, it's very strict, and, of course, the caucus process itself is rather complicated, at least for the Democrats.
How does it differ between the Republicans and Democrats?
Well, look, the Republicans are having a primary. It's not really a caucus. They go in, cast secret ballots. Whoever gets the most votes wins. That's it for the GOP. The Democratic side, say you have 100 delegates in a room, 100 caucus participants. If you don't have 15% for your candidate gets no vote. So if Chris Dodd, for example, only has 7 people in the room, he gets no delegates, and then those 7 people are free to vote for someone else. And so a lot of people here, particularly Barack Obama, are lobbying people to say, hey, if I'm not your first choice, make me your second choice. If your candidate does not have enough votes to get any delegates, vote for me instead.
If you're an independent voter in Iowa, where do you go?
Well, you can participate in either one.
Oh, so
independents, we should point out, Ross, 40% of the voters, there are estimates that 40% of the voters that cast ballots in the caucuses today will show up and be independents. And so, you know, that's the big wild card here is how they're going to vote.
Now, another thing they talk about, some of the problems with the caucuses is a great deal of people can't make it there. They can't get a babysitter, or they're working people, or whatever it may be. And maybe the working class doesn't have the benefit of people who have a little more time on their hands.
I don't know. I tell you what, organization is the big thing here. There are campaigns that are organizing carpools. Mike Huckabee joked that you ought to steal a church bus, and that's kind of funny coming from a Baptist minister. He's, of course, saying that in jest. But they're talking about carpools, hiring babysitters for people, you know, having neighborhood watches bring people, all kinds of stuff. And the weather is clear. We're not going to have any rain or snow here. The roads are clear, and so there should really be no reason for people not to be able to get out if they want to participate tonight.
Now, are the candidates still campaigning today, or is it over for them?
I know John Edwards was at a steel factory this morning, and of course labor is one of his big issues. He had a terrific rally last night with John Mellencamp, the pop singer, and his wife Elizabeth Edwards, in a very colorful concert and event in a bowling alley. And you know, he really resonates. Of all these candidates, John Edwards probably gives the best stump speech. You get a real good feeling of why he was such a great or successful trial attorney, because he has such a personal magnetism and appeal to people that he really hits people on the gut level. And the loss of jobs here in what's now called the Rust Belt is a big issue. And that's perhaps why he has a real good chance of winning this caucus.
So you're able to go to a political rally and a John Mellencamp concert at the same time.
Yeah, in a bowling alley. It was terrific. I mean, it was, you can't get more Americana than that here in the heartland.
All right. You say we have results tonight.
Yeah, we will have results tonight, and again, it's a dead heat between Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama, and John Edwards on the Democratic side. Hillary Clinton campaigned here last night, and perhaps her biggest asset was the former president, Bill Clinton, working the crowd after the rally. It seemed more people were lined up to shake his hand and get his autograph than hers, but that's the dynamic of having a former president as your spouse on the campaign trail.
And Mark, one final question: if they don't do well, what candidates do you expect to drop out?
Well, some of the lower tier candidates, there's rumors here today that Fred Thompson will drop out if he does poorly, but he is denying that. The Chris Dodds, the Joe Bidens, I would imagine that everybody that's campaigning in Iowa is going on to New Hampshire, because that, of course, is Tuesday. New Hampshire may be the point where people start dropping out, and then when we get to South Carolina after that, we may see this whittled down to 3 candidates on both the Democrat and Republican side.
All right, Mark, stay warm. We'll talk to you again tomorrow morning.
All right, we'll have more on KTVU.com as well, Russ.
All right, thank you. Mark Curtis live in Des Moines this morning. Time now, 7:52. Let's go back to the desk.